What's going on, everybody? I am BirdDog John. Thanks for joining us today, and we are going to kick things off here. It is 1 a.m. in Melbourne right now, and that is exactly where I am. Without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Robbie to the show. What's going on, man? All right, let's see. Hey, what's going on, Judson?
Hey, thanks for having me.
I do much more. We are joined with BirdDog Ian, who is at the Capture Summit over in Atlanta. So how's it going, man?
Hot and sweaty.
That's the most important question that our team can ask. Why are you needing this camera?
Now, I haven't tested this thing since it got here. This is something that I'm really excited that NDI did. That's cool. Obviously, there are lots of flavors here, but this is the 4250 line. And our little friend here. Say hello to my little friend. It's brewing in the back of my throat. Based on the recommendation of Senseless, we're going to give a Java Monster a try.
Oh, yeah, Pocky,
We
dude.
got a little Pocky, and
Yes.
I have been putting this off for an age.
Oh, I'm so excited for you.
There is a Snacks on Stream mystery box brought to you by my Snacks on Stream manager, Brayton. What's going on, Bugsy?
There you go. What's going on? Balu, good to see you, man.
What's going on, NetHab? Hey, what's going on, Judson? And hey, Kevin, good to see you, man. What's going on, Jeremy? How are you? Thanks for jumping on. Oh, it's all good. Oh, no. Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm BirdDog John. Oh, he's gone mute. Yeah, okay, so I should really pay attention to all my stuff here. That's why I have a monitor, everybody. Good thing I checked that now, first thing. But apparently I didn't have my audio alarm on, which there I go. That's what happens when you're not paying attention, everybody, and you're trying to rush and do everything. Hey, what's going on? So thanks for jumping on. I had definitely not pressed. All right, I know what happened, and I can explain it. I can't justify it, but I can explain it. So what happened is I brought my RE20 back, and I left it in my gear from over the weekend, and then yesterday I brought it into work and hooked it all up and whatever, got it all working on the interface. Well, before that, I was using channels 3 through 4 on an overhead mic, which is right here. So this microphone is the NTG2 from Rode, and that microphone was on channel 3. And so I was using 3 and 4 to take in the audio from last week, and then I had muted that inside of vMix. And so I had everything working. I could hear myself, the monitor's working, everything, but it wasn't going out to the final show. So that is what happened. But now the green bars are showing, and I should really pay attention to all that stuff when we start the show. And I'm going to turn this playlist on, and we should be good. So today I can definitely do a contrast between the RE20, which, again, I will double-check here. All right, so that is up and running. And let me see. Of course, I looked over, and the chat's like, oh, no, muted. So, oh, no, he's gone mute. What's going on, NetHab? I can't hear you, Frank. Hey, we hear no sound. Facebook user, you're muted. Balu. Okay. Now, there we go. There you are. I thought I had it muted. There's no sound on LinkedIn. That might just be a delay. Let me go over to LinkedIn, and I will view the stream. Why isn't it showing the stream here? Oh, because I have to log in. It should be good. Over on everybody can hear it, so it's maybe refresh the browser if that's whatever. You were muted. It's true. And I've had to pay the price. Let's find out who that is over there on Facebook. I hate it that Facebook doesn't bring it in. So what's going on, David? And wait. It doesn't say you were muted. Okay, now. Okay, so Mr. Santos, thank you. Uh, and overview, live chat. Whoa, this is weird. This looks different on YouTube or on Facebook now. I wonder if that's what all the issue has been about over on Facebook. So several weeks ago, I lost the ability to stream to several of the Facebook outlets, my own personal page and the BirdDog Facebook page, so BirdDog TV. But I'm able to still stream to the user group. Well, now the interface over on on Facebook looks different, and that might be what they were up to, is updating things and whatever. So, hey, it's nice now. Now, happy to see what you're up to on Wireshark. Cool. I don't know what I'm up to on Wireshark, but we do use it. What's going on, David? We do use it for a few things in terms of figuring out what might be going on, but also verifying how your network is like interacting with the devices. And so, well, maybe I shouldn't get into this just yet. Okay, now that I've got both cameras side by side, I had to restart the P200 because I put it in a new spot on some boxes. It's not in the roost, although it could go back up there because I have raised the microphone stand way up to the ceiling and then brought it way down properly. So we'll do a compare and contrast between the two. Oh, and shout out to Laura. Perfect topic today as I get my new Switch in a few weeks. Awesome. Hey, what Switch did you go with, Laura? I have a feeling you said a Netgear, but let me know. So, but now I've got both cameras side by side, so I had to restart the P200, and now one of the camera shots looks yellow, which is the 200, and one of them looks a little more true to my tone, which is the P4K. So I am going to jump over to this camera's web UI and make some adjustments. Maybe I can do that in real time. So let's throw this up here on the screen. Actually, let's do that a little better than that. Let's do it this way. And this one. And we're going to say none. And I will share this screen momentarily once I kind of get things situated. And then here, I want to click on the gear. Whoops, only one time. Okay, so let's, this is the one that I want to fix because I look a little yellow compared to this shot, right? Look a little bit yellow. Look a little yellow. Okay, so let's go ahead and fix that. I'm going to bring up the desktop and we're going to move over to the desktop view. P4K is up in the corner. P200 is inside Studio Monitor. And I could probably take my face off of this P4K shot, but I also feel off center. What's up with that? Maybe I sat down strange. Okay. It's all the little things, you know? It's the little things that make you crazy. I would say proficient, but it's really, they just drive you nuts. Okay, so here is that web UI for Yoink. This camera. Cam control is what we want, and we want to do some white balancing. So exposure is fine, but I want to change the white balance. Now, I was having an issue with this before, and I'm actually going to put this camera in the shot in the preview. I'm going to load that in the preview menu. I was having an issue with this before where I was getting a little bit too yellow. And so what I'm going to do is just dial up the blues slightly and dial back the reds because, whoa, that's too much. Actually, it's actually too much green, oddly enough. So we need to warm this up a shade. Nope, too red. So this is correct, but this is wrong. Still too yellow. Now it's way too red. All right. So, all right, a little bit too much on the red side, but getting better. Slowly. Slowly. Whoa, too red, way too red. Here's a suggestion I'm going to make to the engineers. Can we make these sliders any bigger? Like they're so small, right? Can we not like make them full screen so that when you're moving over, you're not changing multiple Anybody else? Anybody else feel this way? Because I feel this way, and I feel like it's kind of a pain to adjust them on these tiny, tiny sliders like this. What do we think here? I think we're too green. I actually might need to turn off the color because I think these color lights are screwing with my eyes. Although I should be able to. I've had a really bad sunburn. I should be able to adjust this based on the P4K's image. It just looks so yellow, you know. But if I go up any more on this, now I'm green. Come on. Ugh, this is brutal. Under these lighting conditions, all right, you know what? We're going to start over. There we go. What do we think about that? Done and done. All right, so we're going to bring the blues up to about here. And then I'm going to start dialing in this warmer so that it matches the red. Hey. So that it matches the red. Okay, so let's do this. Now, this is proxy, by the way. So not all the detail is on here. But if we cut between these two... Oh, the Among Us sound effect is on here. I'll mute that for the time being. So that's not too bad, eh? That's pretty close. Let's just... Actually, I don't even need to do that. Let's go this one and this one. These are full value. Yay, that's not too bad. Okay, I like that. Let's go with that. So sometimes you just gotta start over. You get finessing things a little bit too much, and you gotta start over. So there you go. That's how I do it. How do you do it? How do you fix your coloration? Hey, no cap, looking good. Oh, thanks. Ken, appreciate that. I was watching that intro video, and at the very beginning, I have pretty much like a buzz cut, and I thought, man, I need to cut my hair again. It's about time, you know. Maybe allow the arrow keys to bump them up 1 instead of 28. So what I want them to do is enable the third wheel, you know, the third button on a mouse to turn it up by 1 per click. That, I think, then you could really dial it in. And that would be a little bit more advantageous than trying to click and move it. I don't like that. And the fact that they're so tiny. They have a mobile view of the web UI, right? So when you lower it down to like 60%, it switches to mobile view. I actually wish that they would also change that to like 30% and make it a full screen menu when it's at 45% or whatever. Whoops. Just because I think that 60% is actually not... that's not the right equation. It should switch over when it's less than 50, not more than 50. So I'm going to make some suggestions. Actually, let me see if I can't do that in real time. Because, oh, you know what I'll do? I know what I'll do. Let me fire up. I have a meeting tonight with the engineers. Every Thursday I meet with them. And so tonight, my time, I'll be meeting with the engineers, and I'll put it on my to-do list of requests to ask engineers and the QA guys. All right. So let me see if I can do that. Okay, here. Tasks. Come on, teams. Keep up with me now. Come on, teams. Oh, boy. CPU overloaded. I'm going to start dropping frames here, probably. Microsoft in there. Okay, here we go. Change the mobile auto switch to 40%, not 60%. And the other item was make the sliders for the white balance manual mode much bigger. Way bigger. Because seriously, guys, what Why? Why do they have to be that small? I don't understand. Plus, the range is like this huge range, and so having tiny sliders and then having a large range doesn't make any sense. Am I right? Am I right? Somebody? Anybody? Bueller? A Netgear M4300. Ooh. With a 4x10 gig stackable. That's nice. So, are you going to like lag this into the rest of your, or trunk this into the rest of your network, or what are you going to do there? That's pretty cool. Hey, John. Hey, Marcus. Hey, great choice on topic. Oh, on topic picture. Wait, great. Is this choice or voice, or this could be a, what is next to great? It's not V or C. Those are on the other side of the keyboard. So, hey, Marcus, clarify for me. Appreciate the compliment, whatever the compliment is. That's always nice. But, you know. So, yes, today I want to touch on Wireshark. And the reason why is because one of the agents and I yesterday were monkeying around with Wireshark, and we were looking at whether or not one of our devices was truly outputting multicast onto our network. And there's actually a way in Wireshark that you can see that. So that I am going to show you. But then there are also a couple of other little commands that are really useful. And so if you're new to networking or you're just getting into it, Wireshark is a great little program to kind of watch traffic, especially coming into your own machine. But I should touch on something right away, is that there's something called ethical hacking, right? Where you're doing, let's say, packet sniffing for ethical reasons, mainly that it's your own network and your own cameras and your own stuff, and you're not using this information to do nefarious things. And so the stuff that we're going to look at today is basically just how to look at, or how to understand NDI streams coming into your computer, and to understand, yes, they're working correctly, identifying protocols, looking at port numbers, all that sort of good stuff. So we're going to touch on that, but you really should, if you're going to download Wireshark, you really probably should read up a little bit. Wikipedia is a good place for this. Read up a little bit on the concept of ethical hacking, because you can really go down some rabbit holes and get into a lot of trouble very quickly with using tools like Wireshark, because they do expose things that are happening on networks. And so you need to, we're all working towards a good means. We're not doing anything malicious here. Definitely don't have any nefarious intentions. We just want to make sure that our networks are running as we expect them to, especially when our products are interacting with our computers. So there it is. There's the disclaimer. I believe you have the best of intentions when you are using the tools that we're going to demonstrate on how to diagnose your network, or at least give you tools to help you understand what's going on the network. Oh, well, hang on. Let me catch up in the chat. I'm using a 10 gig copper CBS 350. I'm assuming this is a Cisco, and a CBS. I need to, because the 350 line is a Cisco. Yeah, is a Cisco switch number. That's their numbering scheme. We're using a Cisco 350 8XT 10 gig coppers and 48 port. Geez. 4 times 1 gig with 10 gig fibers. Cool. That is, on paper, a very adequate switch for what NDI is trying to do. The catch is that I always hesitate when people are using 24 or 48 port switches for everything they're doing. I better be careful where I wave my hands here. I got coffee on the table. Hey, this show not brought to you by Ember Mugs. Keep your coffee hot and your creamer curdled. It's good coffee today, Brayton. Well done. So, on paper, the switches, the Cisco 350s, are plenty adequate for using them for NDI purposes. I always get a little bit iffy when we're using big switches, 48 ports, to do NDI stuff. But they might work marvelously for you. I personally don't have any experience with the Cisco 350 48 port brand, or 24s for that matter. But I do know plenty of installations that are using the 350 series. So there you go. There's lots of people out there that are doing that, and the 350s seem to be quite stable in what it is that they're doing. Future stacking. That's the way to do it. And that switch will be adequate. That switch will be great as the backbone for your future 4250 purchases. There you go. NetHab, I hear that, man. I hear it. So I put the 200 in a different location. That's this shot right here. Put it up in the roost, but I put it on some boxes. And then I think it looks better there. But I should give you some context. The playlist is going to switch off, but I'll fix that in a second. So let me open the P200 in Studio Monitor. There it is. And we'll just cut back to it for a second. So some context to this shot is actually this. And I actually kind of like that. Like, here's everything I'm doing type of shot, right? With the lights and everything. What do you guys think? Do you like this shot? I'll lower the exposure. Let's give it a try. Let's see if I can provide some context here to what it is that I'm doing. This is a really important shot, by the way. When you're designing and implementing your variety of shots, this could just be a PF120. It doesn't need to be a P200. It doesn't need to be a PTZ. You need what's known as an establishing shot. So the shot allows you to give the viewer context as to what it is that you're doing. And it's great for kind of like a behind-the-scenes shot because people then understand, oh, he's like in a bit of a soundstage area, if you will. So this is 0 decibels, and now we're adjusting the iris to give us correct color. I actually don't mind that at all. It's hard to do this. Here, let's do this. Put this over here, put this over here. There we go. So I'm just going to adjust the iris down. I was at 1 point. This is 1.4. Boom, really blowing out. This is 2.4. And I think that's good. I think let's go one more. Nah, that's too dark. So 2.4 or 2.0. 2.0 is a little too bright. I think 2.4 is right in that sweet spot for context. Man, that's a cool shot if I say so myself. I like it. So, hey, I'm going to roll with that for a little bit. So this is that P200, and it just provides a different angle. I don't know why I assumed I wanted another up-close shot of that, but as a establishing shot as to here's what my studio looks like, here's how this works, here's how it works for me. That's what I wanted to what I want to do with that shot. And it's a really important shot when you're designing your show, right? So let's say you're working with a congregation, you're working with a school, you're doing basketball games, or say there's endless amounts of scenarios. But for this style, right, so you and I are talking, and actually in somewhat semi-real time because you're putting stuff in the chat and I'm responding to it on the screen. In that sort of scenario, you really want an establishing shot. And people think, oh, then you're going to see all the lights and you're going to see all the, how the sausage is made. Actually, if you've only got a couple of angles, if you've only got 2 shots to go with, go to an establishing shot for a brief amount of time. So I believe the playlist shows this for 25 seconds, the next shot. And then it goes back to the P4K for a substantial amount of time, 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, something like that. Goes back to this. But it's nice to break it up so that the first of all, it's not just this all the time. It's nice to have 2 shots minimum. And if you're not going to have somebody manning a camera or using a keyboard or monkeying with it in Studio Monitor, it's nice to just have an establishing shot. Tell me the bigger story about what's going on. And the story here is how I am lighting this scenario, or I'm lighting this show. There's some color lights. I've got a couple of different microphone options. I've got a hair light. I've got a key light, and also one for like kind of under the chin areas to eliminate some of the shadows. That's it. And then here are my computer screens. I've got another monitor over there you can't see, and I've got another monitor over here you can't see, and a P4K that you can't see. But the main camera obviously is off camera. But that establishing side shot really tells you the story of how it is that I am doing this without me really needing to walk you through the entire studio. So that's a super important shot. And don't, in in particular, when you're doing reoccurring weekly type of things, and especially if there's if the production piece or if the community element is a big part of the story, so churches in particular, the congregation's meeting. And so it's great to do these tight shots and following the people around on stage and zooming in on the band or the singers or however it is that you're doing that. But it's really important to also back up and show, hey, this is the bigger piece of this. This is what it looks like. There's a bigger production element, but there's also a community that's meeting, and we want you to see that as well. So your establishing shot is actually really important to telling your story without actually going to it and saying, here's how I'm doing this. That's not what I'm doing. I want you, though, to see kind of behind the scenes as to how this is set up. So don't miss that establishing shot because it's really important. Has anyone on here ever had a problem with NDI not showing up on a Mac when you are connected over a bonded cellular connection? Oh my gosh. This is really specific, River. But when switching to non-bonded on the same router, it's fine. Interesting. A bonded cellular connection? I've used those before, but I was using them to get out to the internet, like sending the signal to somewhere else. I didn't use a bonded cellular network for local network purposes. You have to tell me a little bit more about that. I'd love to map that out in my brain so I can understand exactly how you're doing that. Are you going to get promiscuous today? No. With the best of intentions is my middle name. What's going on, M-Tash? Good to see you, buddy. I second that using the arrow keys for white balance adjustments. All right, Sam has backed us up here on this idea. So I've put it in my tasks to talk to the engineers about that today, so hopefully we can get that. Hey, I love that shot with prettier exposure. It's true. It's I like it too. I think it gives context, especially because I'm letting it just run on autopilot. I used to have like 5 cameras in here, and right now I've got 3. The P4K, the 200, I have a 100 that's over the desk that's looking down on my table when I'm doing snacks on stream and things like that, which, by the way, let me line that up so that we can cut to that, which has been supplied. Today, Balu has walked into my studio, and ew, that shot needs to be not low bandwidth. Still out of focus. What's the deal there? Come on, 200 or P100. Hey, there it is. Okay, here we go. The Mr. Balu has dropped off Sanders Small Batch Wonders assorted sea salt caramels. I cannot tell you how excited I am to eat these. So excited. So that's going to be a dead giveaway unless he's put like a snake in there and wrapped it all up to look like it's not open. I think these will be great. So special shout out to Balu for dropping those off before the show started. I'm glad you have the good mic. Ooh, what's going on, Sound Church? Is this? I know who this is. I have the good mic today. Is that what I'm hearing? Let me see. I usually check the audio. I've returned everything back to like factory. And so I can hear myself now on the show. And that it does sound good. Sounds back to the RA20 quality. But I do want to do a comparison between these two microphones. So the NTG2 is still here. And it's plugged in to the same channel as the RE20. So I can easily switch between them. So here we go. Ready? This is the RE20. And now we're going to fade that out. And now we're going to bring up the NTG2. So what does that sound like? Let's jump over to the YouTubes again and find out. Whoa, too loud. Boy, that is definitely a different sound, eh? Like you can hear the hard walls. You can hear the space in this room for sure. things are just bouncing about. But that's the NTG2 audio and not the RE20. Okay, so now we're gonna fade that out and come back to the RE20. Let's see how that sounds now when I switch it. Oh my goodness, such a difference. That's so crazy. And it doesn't seem like I need it to be. Yeah. Wowzers. All right, so big difference there. Big difference. Promiscuous mode is when the network card captures all packets, not just the ones destined to itself. Oh, I see what you mean. I was like, whoa, that's a weird question. Hey, what app are you using to auto switch cameras? vMix. So vMix has a playlist option, and you can load the cameras into the playlist on a timed function and then just let it run. So this is a primary shot, and it stays here for, I think it's like a minute and a half. I can actually show you that playlist. Hang on one second. So if you configure playlist, I'm going to put it up here on the second screen, and then I'm going to click on this and cut to it. This is that playlist, and it shows all of your inputs, and then you can decide how long you want to run each of these for. So you can select it, tell it, so it's a minute and a half is what the P4K is on, and then the 200 runs for 25 seconds, which I find it to be a reasonable amount of time, and then back to the regular show. If I've got multiple camera shots, I like to speed them up a little bit, so because you want to cut to other cameras more frequently if you've got more options. But for just the 2 shots, this seems to work, and then you can even start the playlist from here. Now remember, the playlist will override anything you're doing, and so you have to turn off the playlist to go to a static shot. So if I went to the desktop, for example, when I click playlist start, it immediately started on camera 1. So it's an easy little walkthrough there. But yeah, it's Jedson. What's going on, man? You need EQ for that second mic. Less effort and ear fatigue. Yeah, it's true. It's a real thing. Hey, I've read about and seen the difference in good audio in streams. They will say online longer with good audio, and studies show it seems to matter more than video quality. So I watched Peter McKinnon. Do you know who that is on YouTube? He is a Canadian photographer / videographer. I don't know what he really calls himself. He does like commercials and stuff now. But he does a lot of video stuff. And I just watched a video the other day where he said, you can have mediocre video and great audio and people will watch it, but you can have amazing video and bad or poor audio and people won't stick around. And it's true. And I've been saying that for a very long time, and I feel kind of validated that that's what he said. And then last night, I follow Philip Bloom, who is also a accomplished videographer. And he was doing some reviews for Insta360, the 1-inch. And his reviews are basically mini films. It's fun to watch him work because he does basically a 30-minute or a 40-minute film about whatever it is that he's reviewing. And he doesn't normally do reviews. And so if he's going to do a review, he does quite an in-depth one. So I was watching his review on the Insta360 1-inch because, as many of you know, I also have a VR headset at home, and doing family vacations with 360 video is kind of one of my things, because then I can put the headset on the kids and they can relive the vacations away or wherever it is that we went, and it's not just something that we took photos about. The thing that I was going into, and now I'm really off on a rabbit hole here, with the 1-inch in particular, was that camera is great for 360 photos, which I find I look at more often than the videos that I have to render and store, and they're humongous and all that. The pictures are big, but they're nothing compared to the videos. So I've really kind of gotten into 360 photography on weekends away or vacations or whatever, and I want to do more of it. But the my complaint is detail and low light. And so the 1-inch kind of answers both of those because it's a 6K lens. They're 6K lenses. They're 1-inch sensors, which, if you know lenses, it's not actually 1-inch, but it's a 1-inch sensor. And then they work really well in low light. So anyways, I was watching this video, Philip Bloom doing this review, and he went off on a path about audio on video, and he actually demonstrated the audio on each of the cameras that he was kind of showcasing. And then he just had the DJI microphone that clips on. And actually, my Rode wireless microphones aren't in here right now. But that's what I bought those for capturing audio and doing onboard audio, better audio when it comes to doing video. So that is something I want to do more of. And I already do 3D audio with those binaural headset microphones that I have that have the ears. I already do that. They're bulky. They're really hard to kind of carry around and manage, but they're worth it because the audio is just stellar compared to other options that are out there. Especially when you're doing 3D video, you want 3D audio because it just makes way more sense. So Philip Bloom has a great video about the Insta360 1-inch camera, and he talks about audio being captured on there. And then the reasons. He found out somehow that at least several months ago, 10 months ago or something like that, the 1-inch was doing 16-bit audio recording and wrapping it in a 48-bit wrapper, which is like a big no-no in the audio world. But he got them to admit that that's what was going on, and then they said, we're going to try and fix it. I don't know if they have or not. But then he was switching between 48-bit and 16-bit audio, and the difference was mind-boggling better. And I wonder, because I record with a Zoom field recorder. I think it's called Zoom F1 field recorder. I bought this last year. I bought this last year to take on that cruise that we went on with the kids. And it's a little belt clip. You just clip it onto your belt. It's really slick. Clip it onto your belt and you have a field recorder, and then you just attach your microphone to it. And they have onboard microphones that you can buy like shotguns and stuff. But what I loved it for was I could clip on the binaural microphone that was attached to the bottom of my selfie pole, or I could plug in the wireless Rode Go system that I have, and that worked really well. So pretty awesome. We are getting on. We're already 40 minutes into this, and I haven't even started on the Wireshark conversation. So before we do that, let's get on board with Snacks on Stream, and we're going to eat some of these caramels. And we're going to try out some Wireshark stuff. So let's.
John's just making up stuff to start drama.
Look, I don't know.
Look at him.
Wish me luck, folks. It's my first Vegemite experience.
Final, this is like cheese flavor or something. It doesn't really look too appetizing.
Good golly, this is something else, man.
Here's the thing about Pop Rocks, and I don't know if I'm the only one like this. Pop Rocks have always been a social experience for me.
I did not think that is what you were going to say. That's hilarious.
That is awful. Oh, gosh, that's so bad. Jeez. Holy smokes, man.
Prediction. This Snacks on Stream is not going to be like that experience. That is for sure. I'm very confident in that. So today, Mr. Malu has dropped off Sanders Small Batch Wonders, whatever that means, assorted sea salt caramels. I am a humongous fan of this. And there's dark chocolate, milk chocolate, and milk chocolate. Oh, one has pecans in it. So we're going to give this a go. That is for sure. So here we go. Now, there was a Laura had made a comment here that would support my wireless Go conversations. Yes. Oh man, these are still in plastic. I hope nobody out in my office wanted any because, yeah, you snooze, you lose, man. So, just kidding. Unless it is a small batch and there's only like 1 or 2 of them in here. Ooh, so there's multiple. There's 2 trays, so we can share. I really don't need all of these. So yes, the little Rode Wireless Go. I have just the Wireless Go 1, like the original version, and they have worked great. I took them out to Northern Ontario, and we were in a windy place, and I recorded guys talking with it, and I just clipped it on his shirt and plugged it into my little field recorder and hit record. It was way smaller than the H4n or the H4n Pro, which is the other recorder that I have. Way smaller than that, little field recorder, runs on a AA or 2 AA batteries, which you can just take some rechargeables or grab for, and you're good for basically the week. And then the Wireless Go is just an internal battery. It's a lithium battery that has a USB-C charger. So I had a battery bank charger that was USB-A to USB-C, and I plugged those in at night and just charged them, just top them up. And I only had to do that, I think, once for the entire trip. So we were there for 6 days, and they lasted a really long time. So thumbs up to Rode. I mean, I buy Rode gear. I know that they're not Sennheiser or Shure or whatever, but I have had great results with them, and for their price point, they are stellar. I also have what's the microphone that I bought? I thought it was a Rode. Where is it here? Back over here. Amazon. The LV2 lav mic. So I bought, which is it? Is it Rode? I thought it was. Is it maybe it's not a Rode microphone. I can't remember. Shoot. Nuts. I'm gonna have to log into my Amazon account and actually look at it because I bought a little lavalier mic and I started playing around with mounting it, like different ways to mount the microphone under your shirt and stuff, so it was basically invisible. And so there's a whole conversation about dealing with talent and allowing the technicians to mic them properly and their preferences, and yet like they don't like sticking things to their skin and they don't want it stuck to their shirt, and anyway, whatever. There's a whole thing. Okay, this was the X-Vive LV2. That's right. So I bought a little lavalier mic that works perfect with my Wireless Go system, and it's great. Basically, giving you let me switch this to this shot. Ugh, this looks terrible. This little microphone, and the first one I bought broke. It just stopped working one day. So I sent it back. It was within like 2 months of buying it. But I sent the first one back, got this one back, got a replacement. So far, I haven't really tried it. So I need to do that. Maybe next time we'll use that microphone. But that little lav mic is great. X-Vive seems to be a reasonable company, but yeah, they're 0 for 1 with me because I had a failed device at first. But anyways, we'll give them another try. It's not the end of the world, and certainly not the be all and end all. I want to change. Whoops, not that. So let's talk about Wireshark real quick, because I think that this is a useful tool that you should be familiar with if you're doing anything in the NDI realm. So we're going to cut over here to, this is Wireshark. You can download it for free online, and super helpful. When you first fire it up, it tells you what connections you have to the network, okay? Now, my connection to my network, I have 2 1 gigabit fiber connections to a 4250, which is also 1 gig port. And here, when you turn it on, it tells you what connections you have. And you have to pick one, okay? So you have to, it actually doesn't show my mouse, which is not helpful here, but You have to pick one. And I have 2 fiber connections. Both of them are showing this similar activity on both. So I'm just going to pick fiber 1. And I'm going to stop the actual capture for a moment just to explain kind of what's going on, because there is a lot going on, okay? You can tell when you first turn this on, you say connect to the fiber. What happens is that Wireshark starts displaying everything that's coming into that fiber port. Basically just saying anything that you're capturing, go ahead and take a look at it, okay? So here is a bunch of information, maybe not particularly helpful right out of the gates, but it will be helpful to know what you're seeing and how to kind of decipher. And Wireshark just runs indefinitely until you tell it to stop running. Okay, so it just keeps running, and you have to tell it to stop. Now be careful if you're running vMix and you're running Wireshark, because you're interfering with the packets that are coming in. Oh, by the way, and doing a live show. You're interfering with the packets that are coming into the computer, and it's actually scanning each of those and showing them. So you're probably going to get drop frames. This isn't something that you want to do like I'm doing live on the show. You're probably going to want to wait to do this, and be sure that you use this in a troubleshooting scenario. What Wireshark essentially tells you, well, it doesn't just essentially, it tells you what's going on, what the computer's seeing, and evidently you can use it in nefarious ways to, like, promiscuous mode, where you can watch packets going across networks and not just into your own machine. But today, I just want to show you what it means when packets are coming into your machine. And vMix is a great example, because I am bringing in packets into vMix live from cameras, which means packets from IP packets are coming from the cameras to my computer over this fiber connection. And you can see, just by hitting start, you can see that lots of packets started coming through. Now, I have 3 cameras and a play unit all kind of connected to this scenario, okay? Coming into vMix, and then vMix is shipping out to the play unit and actually out to this computer, shipping out NDI packets in that regard. So there's a lot of stuff coming and going, and we need to be aware of that. If you shut this all down and just open Studio Monitor and connect to a camera and hit start, you'll likely just see those packets coming through, unless you're doing a lot of web searching and whatever. You're likely going to see a lot of similar packets from the same IP address to the same IP address coming in to the same place. And that's basically what we're looking for. But we can see if we're having any errors, if packets are getting dropped. And by the way, a lot of information will be coming across the wire very fast, okay? So this is just a quick little snapshot. But what you're seeing here is packets coming from a device, to a destination. And I believe my Fiber 1 connection is 248, which is what this lists out here. Matter of fact, let me see if I can, okay, yeah, that's in full bandwidth. So you're seeing those packets come from a device, 187, to 248. Now, you might say, like, well, how do I know what's what? Like, how do I know? Well, the easiest way to do that is to open Chrome and just type in 192.168.1.187, right? And that's going to tell you what device that is. So 192.168.1.187. And that appears to be a P4K, which happens to be the P4K that you're looking at right here on this camera. So those packets are coming in probably to vMix for that purpose. I'm watching that P4K live right here in vMix, so I know those packets are coming in. So it's going from 187 to 248. So how do I know what 248 is? Well, easy thing to do there is to open Command Prompt and just type in ipconfig and see if that is either of your network adapters. And sure enough, 248 happens to be Fiber 1, which is the connection that we made here on this computer. So we know these are packets coming from P4K over to my computer, probably vMix. This also works if you open Studio Monitor. Okay, so you don't have vMix, you don't have any of that. Shut it all down. You're just running Windows 10, and you start Wirecast or Wireshark. You're not going to see very many packets coming through with no connections made. But as soon as you open Studio Monitor and let Wireshark run, open Studio Monitor, connect to the P4K, you're going to see all of a sudden a population of a bunch of packets coming across. Now, what does this really tell us? I mean, that's good, all well and good to know. This is how you read this information. What does it actually tell us? Well, there's a couple of useful things here on this screen that we can use. The first thing is it shows us that packets are arriving in sequence. Okay? So they're all arriving, the numbering stuff, they're all arriving in sequence, and it tells us the IP addresses of the actual source and the destination. And in many cases, the computer IP address will be one of those two things. So if we're shipping packets, for example, off to my Play, we're going to see packets leaving this computer and going to whatever the Play IP address is. All right, and you're going to notice a few of that. So you're going to notice a few of that as we go through these packets, just kind of quickly scanning. The next thing this tells you is what protocol this camera is running on. And this says that it is running on a TCP protocol, which is cool because not only does it show that packets are coming across in TCP, it shows us that the ACK packets are also going back. So you're going to see here an incoming packet coming from source 187 to my computer 124 or 148. But then the next packet is going to say, now we're sending a packet from 248 back to 187, right? And this is the ACK packet that's going back to acknowledge on the TCP protocol that the packet has arrived, send the next one. And it's going to do that back and forth constantly. Okay, so it's going to 187, and then we're going to have another 248 down the line here. So 187, where are we? 187, 248, 187, 248, 187. So there's this constant conversation back and forth between on the TCP protocol that, yes, those packets arrive, send the next one, send the next one, send the next one. Okay? We can verify that TCP is working correctly because we're seeing that conversation happening. Now, what happens, though, if we have a multicast protocol? Well, we're going to see the UDP protocol on that list. Okay, so if I'm running in multicast, I'm going to see UDP as the protocol. Also, if you're running in UDP, you'll probably also see UDP. But the way that you differentiate between multicast and unicast is by the destination. And so the destination changes to this 239.255, yada, yada, yada. What that is the actual multicast configuration on my network is managing the packets. And so my computer 248 is sending a unicast packet into the multicast configuration, and then that's going off to wherever else it needs to be. And more than likely, this is a conversation between my Play, because the Play is running in multicast. Okay, so I'm sending vMix output 3, which happens to be my multi-viewer, which is right below the camera that you're looking at, and it's going multicast out to Play. And Play is then getting that information off my multicast network and displaying it for me on my computer. So I can see right here in Unicast, or I'm sorry, in Wireshark, geez, there's too many of these cast and shark names. I can see here, right here in Wireshark, that I am sending a unicast packet, or I'm sorry, a UDP packet, which is multicast, and that's going onto the network and then being delivered somewhere else. Now, I don't see the packet going from multicast to the Play, but I do see the packet leaving my computer into the multicast interface. And so that's what's going on here, is that we are shipping that out into the multicast realm. So this is UDP, which is correct for multicast, and we see that it's connecting to this destination that is not a 192.168.1 address, right? This is actually a multicast address, and so that's what's going on there. Okay, and then so that tells us what's going on there. Now, the other thing that we want to do is up here at the top, you can actually set this to display only information from a particular IP address. So anything that happens from that IP address will get shown, so it's like a filter. Or you can tell it to look at specific port numbers being used. And so, as you know, NDI uses specific ports, right? So perhaps we want to sniff a particular NDI port that's going on. It's not really sniffing, but it kind of is. We want to look at a specific port going on our network or coming into our computer. We don't want to see all of the data. So say I'm using a web browser, I'm going to get a lot of 80s or 443s, or I'm going to get a lot of HTTP protocols. I don't want to see any of that. I just want to see the packets that are coming in on the NDI ports. And so maybe that's, what was it, 5961? Or, yeah, 5961, 5962. those ports are commonly used for NDI. And so we can specify what those actual ports are. And so we can say we want to look at that particular port number. We can also specify an IP address. And so say I want to only see information that's coming from a specific TCP IP address or my own IP address. I want to specify either of those. I've got a TCP camera. All right, this camera we know is running at 1.187. So I can go up here to the filter and say IP address, okay? And then I can say equals, and then I can put in the actual IP address of the camera. So 187. And now I can hit enter, and this will filter on the next search. This will filter any of the, it filtered them on this search. Filtered any of the communications that have 187. So I don't see any unicast packets in here because this is a TCP protocol. And this is everything that's coming from the P4K. All right, so when we did that search, when we ran that live data, and then I stopped it, you have to stop it because it can go on indefinitely. Then I stopped it, and then I click on IP address equals 192.168.1.187, and I hit enter. It shows me everything that came from this. And you can even go more so and say from IP address source, so only show the stuff that's in the source list from this IP address, or destination or whatever. So you can get kind of specific with how that works. And then this tells us what's going on. Now, I want to show you this thing failing. I want to show you what it looks like when something fails. And so I've set up a quad. All right, now the first thing to know about this quad is that it is currently running in multicast. So the quad is 1.17. So let's see if we have any packets from 1.17. We probably shouldn't, but we might, because there might be some ACK packets in there that came across like when it booted up. It doesn't look like there are. So I am going to go over to the quad's web interface, 192.168.1.17. I'm going to log into the quad. You're not going to be able to see this because I'm doing this on a separate machine. Log into the quad. And I am going to change this protocol from multicast. Okay, it's currently in encode. Change it from multicast to TCP. So now I'm going to start Wireshark. This is going to say, do you want to save your results? No, I'm just going to continue without saving. You can archive those results. But now we're running. CPU is hanging on, so that's good news. And now I'm going to apply the TCP command, and I'm going to restart video on the quad. Okay, so we're coming out of multicast and going into TCP. A packet has been discovered already. We've got MDNS requests that are showing up, which is expected, by the way. A lot of MDNS queries. We're changing over, and are we? Refresh the dashboard. Yeah, dashboard is up. So now I'm encoding on 1.17. I'm encoding the P200, the P200 shot. And if I open that, if I open in Studio Monitor that quad encoder, okay, so I'll throw this up here now for you that you can see. So, wait a minute. Okay, there we go. So now if I open that quad, which is, I believe, this guy. Hang on, let me verify that. B4. Yeah, it's this guy. So if I say stream 1, okay, that's the 200, and that's the quad. So now I'm bringing those packets in. Oh, Wireshark is struggle busing here. Okay, here we go. Let's have her come back. And I don't know if I should change this from proxy. I probably should. Whoops. Yoink. So now I'm going to require of my computer a whole bunch of work. I might crash things here. Who knows? So we want to specify anything that's coming from 117, any packets or anything like that. And by the way, I might actually have to reboot this device to get that TCP protocol to work. So let me do that because it's only giving the MDNS queries. So we'll reboot, and while we reboot, we're going to try one of these sea salt caramels. Don't mind if I do. Oh, man. That's very rich. That's for sure. Woo. Really good, though. Okay, Quad, come on back now. Don't leave me hanging. I really need a technical difficulty slide, but you get the idea. Hey, all right. I'm gonna log back into it. Her, so she is coming up, and it does appear that she is encoding. Yep. Whoa, it's quite slow. Stream 1. We are getting more MDNS queries. Let's go ahead and restart this scan. Continue without saving. Oh, man. Yeah, this computer is struggle bussing now. Let me just check on the chat here. I have a similar set microphones from Hollyland. They've been pretty good. Has a charging case like AirPods for 2 belt packs, built-in condenser mics they can plug into a lav. 5961 TCP. Is it RUDP, which uses TCP and UDP? Is there an NDI plugin for Wireshark to follow the stream? No, there is not. Okay. There is not. Boom. Okay. So now I'm watching this over on Studio Monitor, and that is what is pulling in all of these packets. So now we are going to attempt to stop. Whew. Yeah, she's burning here. It doesn't look like the stop command is allowed at this point. But anyways, so you are seeing everything that's going to 117. And that is this camera, which is the P200 going into a quad, and the quad then outputting TCP. So my decode is struggling. My CPU is just crazily overloaded right now. But you can see these packets coming in real time. Matter of fact, I can't, for some reason, stop it, which you should be able to. But here are all those packets, and we have confirmed that it is now on TCP. Now, what I want to do midstream is change it to multicast, and what you're going to see is a bunch of TCP error, basically, errors show up. Boom! As soon as I changed it, basically an interruption of the packets that are coming to the unit, and you can see in Studio Monitor, it's frozen, right? So now it was sending all that data, and this, whoa! All right, so that's very strange. So it was sending all that data, and when you switch protocols or you change IP or you change streams inside vMix and stuff, this is what's going on behind the scenes. The computer basically has a bit of a hernia because all of a sudden all this packet stream has been broken, which is why it takes a few seconds to switch over to other sources. So I got a play, for example, that's running full NDI, and I change the NDI source. Why it's not, people are like, why isn't it instant? This is why. Because you have to break the stream. You have to stop the packet flow and then dump everything that you were working on, reacquire a new stream on the network, and then start going again. And so I've changed the actual protocol to multicast. Not too sure if it's actually going to pick up. It still doesn't like the TCP commands. And for network changes like that, when you're doing protocol changes, I really strongly advise that you reboot the device. And so that's what I'm doing here. I've just hit restart. Reboot the quad. And so it's going to take 2 minutes, and I'm going to enjoy another one of these caramels because this is going to take longer than 30 seconds. So it's showing you what's going on when you change an NDI source. Those red lines are basically packets that never made it. And it's showing errors, which is great. But Wireshark should not be running alongside vMix. Okay. The quad's coming up. MDNS records are being requested. Whoa. Bunch of TCP packets. All right. Quad is up. Well, quad is loading. It says it's in multicast. I'm waiting for the SDI connection to start. Whoa! I did not tell Wirecast to stop. Wireshark to stop. Really, apologies, Wirecast. I'm using your name a lot here. UDP. So when I started quad and it started encoding, so the encode is now happening in Studio Modder. When I started doing that, boom, there's a UDP. So now we know this is back in multicast. And that's a way, if you suspect that your product is not using multicast correctly on your properly configured multicast network, this is a way that you can verify that your device is indeed running in multicast. So 1.17 is the quad, and the destination is a multicast destination, and the protocol is UDP. So I could verify that that did switch over to multicast and now is generating a multicast capture. So I've just quit Wireshark, and I need to close down Wireshark because she is, the longer you run it, obviously, the more data it's going to use, and I really don't recommend running it in parallel to Studio Monitor running full screen and vMix running full blast because you're going to have performance issues. But I just killed that, and now my CPU is running at 60%. So that might be what is going on with all that. But Wireshark is really helpful. Now, there's a few other commands, but I won't insult your intelligence because there are ways of finding those commands. If you want to do more than that with Wireshark, this is just a general gist of things, you can look up something called the Wireshark cheat sheet, okay? And the Wireshark cheat sheet will tell you what all the acronyms and everything means, but then we'll also tell you what commands and how to type out commands and which ones to use for what outcomes you're looking for. And so it's a good way to kind of scan things, keep an eye on what it is that is going on. So I don't know of any NDI plugin that you could use, but there you go. Not as of yet, that's for sure. Afternoon, what's going on, Ian? Hopefully you're doing well. You're also getting sound clicks. Interesting. Not just drop frames. Wow, very cool, Wireshark. Does this also help us find missing IP addresses? If you plugged in, so what I would do in that scenario is I've done this a few times successfully, but I would plug in the device and I would run Wireshark just in open mode. And I would open Studio Monitor just on the NDI screen, right? So whatever, you just in the none, with none selected. Then I would watch Wireshark and I would power up the device that you have. And your device will send out broadcasts if it's connecting via IP correctly. And you could probably see those broadcasts come into Wireshark. So that is a way to do it. I would really recommend, though, that you not have any NDI signals coming in, not be surfing the internet. Just leave everything quiet and then power up that device. And the device will broadcast out, and your computer would actually probably see it. An MDNS request would probably see it and tell you what the IP address is. So there's that option. So Wireshark, not Wirecast, Wireshark. Wireshark should be able to tell you that. So it's a useful little tool to help you see some of that stuff. You said there are two fiber Ethernet interfaces. Could the data be coming in on the other interface? So on my instance, the fibers are actually lagged together. So it's a single port. They're independent IP or they're tied together on the networking side. And so no, the data is actually load balanced. Now, interesting fact about NDI. NDI will load balance if you have multiple connections, multiple IP connections, so more than one NIC card connected to the same network, and your computer can handle that and it won't cause a loop. If you have multiple connections, just not even lagged, just connected directly to the network. So I've got two Ethernet connections on the same NIC connected to the switch. Okay. If you have that option, NDI will actually load balance itself. which is genius, by the way. Whoever programmed that, that's amazing. It's such a smart move, because now it's really up to, okay, 1 gig is really good for 2 or 3 full NDI signals, but I could get a third-party NIC that has 4 10 gig spots and put it in a Sonnet box and connect that via Thunderbolt to my computer. And now I've got 40 gig potential, and it will load balance across multiple IPs. Heck yes, man. That genius move, because that makes a huge difference when using your computer. And matter of fact, I've tested that theory. This is a find that BirdDog Jake Feynman told me, is that I just removed the lag on the switch and had 2 fibers with different IP addresses and everything. It load balanced on its own. Now, it didn't. It load balanced new connections. It doesn't load balance by how much data, okay? This is the piece that I'm still haven't figured out how to do this, but it doesn't load balance by how much data. It load balances by connection. So if I have 1 full NDI connection on one side and I add an HX connection, it will put that on the second connection. But it doesn't see I'm using 140 megs and 6 megs. It sees I have 1 full NDI and another NDI that happens to be HX, and it puts them on different connections. So the words load balancing, I haven't seen this done. This might be the case, by the way, but I haven't seen it yet, where it will balance the quantity of data, because you need 140 megs together to make a video signal. And so you can't separate those. But if you've got 4 full NDI signals, it'll put 2 and 2 on each. So that is technically load balancing. But it isolates signals together and puts them on separate channels if you have multiple NIC connections to your network. What I haven't seen is it actually quantify the total usage of data and then separate it evenly. I've seen it I had 2 NDI signals, put one on each of the connections. I've seen that for sure. Andrew Cross, what's going on, MX Rules? How are you? Yes, I believe Dr. Cross is probably to credit for this invention. I don't like giving people credit where I don't know that's actually due. Somebody, and more than likely Dr. Cross, had a hand in the load balancing stuff back in the day, and it is a genius idea, and they need to capitalize on that. If anybody from NDI is watching, make that function better, because many of us are using multiple connections to networks as a way to bring multiple 1 gig connections to a crappy computer that's doing a vMix setup. Not all of us have the 10 gig option. I have 10 gig SFP pluses, but I've only got a 1 gig connection on my switch, right? So I'm bound to the limitations of the switch, which is 1 gig each. I can lag them together and bring them across as a single pipe and maximize the usability of the switch and my computer. But if we could capitalize on the ability to transfer data in higher quantities across multiple NIC connections, I'd be all about that. Optimizing that feature, that'd be great. But what they have so far is great, by the way. Not saying it isn't. I'm saying 100% it is a great advantage to using NDI, and it does it natively. You don't have to go in and customize it. All you have to do is make multiple connections from the same computer to preferably the same same switch, which modern day network interface cards, NICs, have independent MAC addresses per port. It used to be that you could connect, it would have multiple connections, but you couldn't connect to the same switch because it had the same MAC address, and it would cause a loop, or it would cause them to close the ports. But anymore, I mean, for 20 years, you have multiple ports, and you can connect all of those to the same switch, and they all have independent MAC addresses, so they all get independent IP addresses. And NDI recognizes that and is able then to load balance across that whole fleet. So maybe the next test is to get a 4-port 10 gig. Let's Google that right now. let's see what that would cost. Because if it's not a high burden in terms of money, does anybody have any preferred, or are you using one in the field that you've got 4 ports on the back of your computer and they're working great and they're in this configuration? 4-port NIC 10 gigabit Ethernet. Okay. I'm just going to bring this over. Oh, I guess I could share this up here. So this is the inner workings of the Amazon. And there are many of these that are 2 ports. A lot of these are fiber, SFP+. I am looking for something that is Ethernet, even if it's just a gig. $60 is not ridiculous, by the way. Let's see, 4-port NIC gigabit Ethernet 10G. Does 10G Tech have anything? I have used 10G Tech for an age, and StarTech has something. They're okay. 10 gig. So this is a dual port. I want 4. 4 ports, 160 gigabit. Let me see. $35. Wow, can't go wrong there. Actually, that could go very wrong. Definitely could. Single ports, meh. I don't trust these, by the way. These dongle things, no. Hardline, please. This is kind of my scenario here. I've got a card like this. 2 LC mods. They're able to do 10 gig, but the switch is a limit. I'm looking for, I guess, this. 160. It's really for servers, but whatever. Quad RJ45 ports. They're 1 gig each, which would give you 4. 2.5 gigs. Oh. Although all my ports. Now, the other issue is, where am I going to get 4 ports on my switch, right? Because I'm maxed out already. So I would need to probably buy another 4250 in order for that to work correctly. But this would be a lot of fun to see if I could get 2.4 gigs out of a 4. Like, remember, that it's 1 gig max. So let's say 500, 600 megs is maybe what we're thinking. And so 6 times 4 is 24. So 2.4 gigs. That would be pretty good if I could figure that out. But who knows, right? Who knows? So I'd be very interested if anybody has something like that, whether or not that is a workable solution, because I have not tested it and I don't know. But theory is that NDI would load balance across all ports, which would be so cool. I do know that it works on my 2. I just don't know if it works on all 4. Okay. My question last week around NDI over at WPN doing testing over the next couple of weeks. Right on. Cool. Do you have any early findings on that? I'd love to know more. Does NDI load balance from the source, meaning the transmitter just sends half the packets to one IP and half to the other? No, it doesn't split the signal. So it does all of them down one connection, and then when you make a second connection, it will send all of those down the second connection. It does not split. How you load your switch in an ideal world? All NDI one side, then computers and TriCasters Dante connections to the other. Does that help load balance? No, I actually would prefer you to spread out the NDI sources across multiple switches if that's the option, because the processing that's going to be required to do that level of NDI needs to be across multiple hardware. So I would prefer, like, if you have 4 cameras and you're coming into then doing Dante and whatever, I would set 4 of those ports on each switch. And With the new Netgear Engage software, you can do this pretty simply, but you can buy your switches and make the same configuration on all switches. Okay, so on your 4300 here, Laura, let's use your example. On your new highly anticipated 4300, we would set up the interface with all the VLANs and everything that we want, even if we're not going to use them right now. Okay, so make all of your profiles and set up your DHCP stuff. So you're going to have a Dante one, you're going to have an internet one, and you're like a data network, and you're going to have an NDI one. So then you're going to just set them up like there, and then pick and choose on your 4300 what ports you want on each profile. That's fine. But then in the future, you're going to say, okay, I want to set up 2 more 4200s. So I'm going to buy some, the 4212, 4250s. They're kind of the entry level ones, and they're going to come back via fiber, 1 gig fiber, back to my 4300. Okay, that's great. And then we're going to put 2 cameras on one switch and 2 cameras on another. Great. When you set up these switches, you could make it the same profile, but the same configuration, meaning ports 1 through 4 are NDI, ports 4 through 8 are Dante, and then ports 9 and 10 are data network. And so 9 and 10 are non-PoE ports in these on the 4212s. So 9 and 10 are going to be computers or internet or whatever. And then our actual trunk is going to come out of the fiber, and we're going to trunk everything together over LC fiber throughout the building. And it's all going to come back to 4300. So now you know that when you roll up onto those other switches, right? So you got to switch in a different room in a closet somewhere, or a headroom, or maybe a different building. You know that when you roll up on any switch from here on in, it's going to be the same configuration on all. So ports 1 through 3 are always your NDI network. Ports 5 through 8 are going to be your Dante network, and ports 9 and 10 are going to be your data, and then your trunk lines are going to be your fiber. Easy peasy. So now, everywhere you go, anytime you do it, you know that that's your configuration, and it will never change. This gives us, it doesn't have to be 4 and 4. It can be whatever you want, 2 and 6 or whatever. But you know that, okay, this is how I expand my network. I know that I'm going to do 2 or 3 or 4 sources on a 4200 or 4250, and that's where I'm going to, once I get to 4, I know that I need to expand the network to add another switch. That is a way to be sure that the network grows with you. Okay, so you do some testing, find out 3 cameras, 4 cameras. That's about the limit of what I'm comfortable putting on here. And then you grow the network that way. It's a good way to kind of map things out for the future. Okay, so now I want 12 cameras in one location. That means I'm going to need 4 more switches or 3 more switches in order to do all that workload, and I'm going to need to trunk them together, so on and so forth. That's how I map it out in my brain, at least. And then TriCaster can go in one of the internet ports and into the one of the NDI ports, and they can get all the data off of both those networks. If you're running Dante somehow, you can plug it in that way. There are lots of options. If you're using the new TriCaster TC2, the mini or the 4K version, on the back of that device there are 6 ports, and they say NDI like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those NDI ports allow you to join multiple networks and keep it isolated. Inside there is a mechanism that basically sets up its own subnet out of that port. So people say, here's how we found this out. I got 3 cameras and a keyboard. I plugged them all into my TriCaster Extreme, and the keyboard can't see any of them. But they're all running in DHCP. They're all working. They're all coming to TriCaster, but the keyboard can't control them. Well, what we found out was, and it's actually a bit of, I suspect, Dr. Cross genius again, is that they programmed the TriCaster 2, the TC2 Extreme and Mini, and the 4K one, to govern individual networks out of each of the ports. So if it gets an IP address, it just takes the IP address. But if it finds that there aren't any IPs being issued, or that the device doesn't have an IP address, it will make itself its own subnet. The problem is that if you plug a keyboard into there, it's going to get an isolated, its own subnet IP address, and then you're not going to be able to see any other cameras in the other subnets. So it doesn't work great for that, but it's a bit of a genius when it comes to people not knowing networking very well, and they just want to fire it up and get going. They have 3 cameras. They plug them into the back of the TriCaster. TriCaster issues them 3 independent IP addresses. They come up. TC1 or TC2 can see them, and they're off to the races. The problem is when you want to talk to each other on the NDI network, it doesn't route out. It doesn't do cross subnet routing, and so that's a bit of a rant for you. But it's actually a genius idea. Shout out to Glenn at Broadfield, who really figured all of this out a couple of years ago, and then educated me and helped a lot of customers figure that out. But yeah, shout out to him. He's you don't know Glenn from Broadfield, you should, because he's a good guy, and he's a great integrator and forward thinker. So good times. Did I? Yeah, I already answered that one. Kind of. It was the type of protocol Handshake is set up: TCP, UDP, MTCP, and RUDP, and that is the version of NDI you are using. John, in your scenario, it's only going to work if you go back to legacy UDP. Yeah, because it would be a one-way street then, right? Yeah, and that's probably correct. I mean, I'm not trying to figure out how to make it. Well, I guess I did say I was trying to quantify it and get it across, but yeah, you're right. That would be a UDP protocol, and we'd have to get a whole lot more confident. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, good call. MX rules. Yeah, you're right. So if it was all UDP, I'm slouching. Sorry. If it was UDP, I think the sugar is hitting my bloodstream. Then yes, then you could load balance across multiple NIC cards. But if it's TCP and you're doing that two-way street, then it all needs to be in the same place, and multicast for that matter. So yeah, good call. It would need to be legacy UDP. And I think there'd have to be some significant work on the UDP protocol, which seems to kind of be just pushed to the side, the legacy UDP protocol when it comes to NDI. I think the major players are TCP 100%, RUDP, and multicast. Those are your options when you're really talking about NDI, and if you start expanding your NDI network pretty quickly, you got to go multicast, because you're then leveraging the ability of the network to handle the packets, which is what it does. That's the thing you bought to do the thing that does the thing you need it to do. So multicast, if your switch can handle multicast, then that is the way to go, especially as you start getting bigger, because the network should be able to handle that way more efficiently than any sort of unicast protocol. We just did a test from BirdDog Quad to TriCaster TC1. We are seeing roughly 500 milliseconds of latency from source to SDI output. Is that normal? You're doing SDI output of TriCaster or SDI output of the quad? We did from the quad to TriCaster, but from quad and decode or encode. So NDI to TriCaster or SDI into TriCaster. Which one were you doing? I will have like 11 cameras on a switch. Is that going to blow it up? 4300 is a workhorse, okay? Don't get me wrong. 4300 is a workhorse. However, are you running all 11 cameras simultaneously? Because then no. The 4300 can do multicast though, and so then you'd be okay. You'd probably be a lot better off doing multicast. The 4300 can do multicast. So I would get in touch with our friends over at Netgear, at proavdesign@netgear.com when your 4300 arrives, and just tell them, here's the deal. I'm doing full NDI. I've got a 4300. I just bought it. I'd like to set this up to do multicast correctly, because I have 11 cameras and other things going on. If you're asking for my genuine opinion, I would seriously tell you, consider soon looking at budgeting for some additional switches that could handle some of the processing load. Because me personally, if it's me, I'm going to spread the load out over multiple units, not just buy one big honking switch, but I'm going to spread it out over multiple units. It gives you a little more redundancy. It allows you to do a little bit more network. Like if the 4300 goes, like it blows up for some reason, now you're down, right? You can't switch over and patch over and keep afloat while you sort out what you're going to do. But if you're running it in multicast and you're not running every source full blast all the time, you'll probably be fine with the 4300. I don't think you need to worry too much about that. It will be a lot of data, that's for sure. But you don't have to necessarily worry too much. So Anyone interested in a job in Scotland covering live events, BirdDog, and Blackmagic Kit? There you go. Not only did you not realize that you were going to get more than your value today for the price of admission, but there's also job offers being put up in the chat. So there you go. RUDP is the NDI. RUDP is NDI using NDI 5. So RUDP is a function of NDI 5, correct? And as you know, converters are not on NDI 5 just yet, but the plan is to get them there extremely soon. So I've been told that we're in some level of final testing, and so, but you want to test it before you let it go into the wild, because if it breaks, you're going to have all sorts of problems on your hands. So I would rather them rigorously test it and spend a little more time doing that so that everybody's happy when it comes out. SDI output from the TriCaster. Oh, interesting. So you're going into a TC1. Is that what you said? Well, I actually have. Okay, question then. In Studio Monitor from the quad, if you watch the feed from the quad, is it, if you watch it on a separate machine on the network, is it delayed or no? Because that would be an interesting find. And compared to what? Sorry, I'm just going to scroll back to your question here real quick. From a BirdDog quad. So what's your source? So what's the delay from source to quad? Meaning, how long is the delay coming out of your source? And then is it up to speed? Like in Studio Monitor, when you watch the feed from quad encode, is it good? And then is it getting delayed at TriCaster, or is it getting delayed somewhere in the network, or is it the actual quad and it's delayed? The encode from the quad is slow, and we can forget about TC. Yeah, let's figure out where that is. Each jump of NDI is going to add delay. Yeah, essentially, yes, that statement is true. Yeah, I'm going to run all of them all the time. Maybe I should do my other stuff other than the TriCaster. I'm going to run them. Should I use my old switch for the computers and other things? We love to max out what we have, so hoping multicast is my friend. Studio Monitor and TriCaster Multiviewer are not noticeably delayed. Source was a laptop running a latency test video. Interesting. So the source, the quad, is operating full tilt. But then you're saying, is TC up to date? Is there an update for TriCaster? Because it may just be something as simple as that. You may have a network card problem. But I would double check like Windows update and TriCaster update. See if there's any downloadables on the New Tech website for that. Because I mean, I have a quad and I'm watching it. Actually, I'm not really watching it right now. Let's do that. I don't know. Oh, I'm running multicast on that quad too. So if I open this, and this is the stream I want. Yeah, no, not noticeably delayed. So I can give you that again so that you may see. So that's, you can see my picture. It's not noticeable. Oh, I guess I should put this hand inside the actual, pretty close. In sync. It does seem to be dropping frames, but that is because my CPU is overloaded. Oh, and this is full. So yeah, I'm running this. I run it in low bandwidth. Oh yeah, it's locked in with the P4K, which is pretty awesome. So interesting find though that you've noticed delay out of TC. You said TC1, right? Let me go back to the chat. Yeah, TriCaster 1. I would check the updates on that. TC1 was updated. GPU was the only other update that New Tech required. The delay is not related to TriCaster versions. So the TriCaster is sending NDI to the quad, which is then plugged into SDI on an LC monitor. No, he's saying he's watching the output, the TriCaster output. So quad is coming across NDI. And in Studio Monitor, that's not delayed. And on another, what did you say here? TriCaster Multiviewer, they're not noticeably delayed. But out the SDI port of TriCaster, there appears to be 500 milliseconds of delay. Just a significant add. But I don't know what the delay is, truthfully, of TriCaster. I don't know what that actual number is. We run cameras on SDI into the TriCaster 410. Plus, I don't notice a delay unless I'm taxing my TriCaster. Yeah, I guess there's another question: is what else are you doing? Is it just this test, or is there anything else that's on that line? Hey, here's another little thing that's going on here on this channel, by the way, which is, say it with me now, BirdDogJohn.tv. This channel is slowly growing, and I really appreciate that. Whoever is telling their friends and family to subscribe, that's been noticed. We're almost at 220, I believe. I think it's 219 is what I was at this morning. And, 219 right now. And I have been trying an experiment to see if adding custom thumbnails to videos make any difference. Because, we want people to be able to find our stuff, but we also want it to be somewhat engaging. And just my smiling face on that banner that I've had for ages was just basically making a giant list of things that all look the same. So that wasn't helping. And so I'm cutting out the segments that I talk about specifically. I'll cut out the Wireshark one today and make a little background for it or a thumbnail for it. But making it easy for you to find these segments where we talk about this specific stuff on this show. So those will appear on the BirdDogJohn.tv site. And if you would be so kind, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to that show. That is where everything I do in this support office gets put on there. So anything live gets put there, as well as other places. But if you want updates from what I'm up to, they will always appear on that spot. If you watch the SDI from the TriCaster into NDI Studio, there's a little delay sometimes if my network is busy. Interesting. You see a noticeable delay when you have a busy network. My next test is to run SDI direct and NDI from the same source simultaneously and see if there's a delay at the same. I would... Oh, curious. What happens if you plug... What happens if you well... Oh, hang on. How are you going from your computer to SDI? How is that possible? You have some sort of converter that's going on, using a decimator or something like that? Be curious to know how that conversion is, because that would be HDMI out, right? So how are you making that conversion to get into the quad? Seems like an extra step that's I'm unfamiliar with. So we shall see. For those of you who are keeping score at home, Sanders Small Batch Wonders, sea salt caramel, emphasis on the sea salt. Really good. I like me some heavy salt on my caramel candies. So these are excellent. Super high in calories. I won't need lunch, that's for sure. And but they're really good, and would highly recommend them if you come across them. Small Batch Wonders, assorted sea salt caramels by Sanders. Not the Colonel. Okay. Well, it is almost 20 to 1. Okay, so we probably need to wrap things up. Now, there is today we talked about Wireshark. And Wireshark helps us just understand what's going on in our network, if we're having issues with devices, if we don't know what IP addresses certain devices have. It also helps us make sure that, like, we don't know what protocol a camera is in. You can open Wireshark and find out really fast, because it will actually list what the protocol is. So it's a super helpful little program. Go ahead and play around with it. If you use Wireshark for your NDI stuff, please let me know. I'd love to chat more about that. But there is out there a Wireshark cheat sheet that allows you to see the filter syntaxes, allows you to see this descriptions about what all the stuff does. Just type in Wireshark cheat sheet. It'll come up in Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever it is you're using, and then you can pull that up. There's also a whole long list on that site of things that you can do and how to create filters and all that sort of good stuff. So it's a really helpful piece of software. It's free. You can get it. You can download it on the interwebs at your convenience. But if you're getting into networking and you're doing more NDI stuff, it's a great little tool just to have in your kit, along with programs like Dyno, Cam Control, soon to be Fleet Manager. All these things are just great to have on a laptop device or something like that that you can take, roll up to your client's place, and provide some assistance. So if you know how to use it, it's a very convenient tool to have. I plugged in the same SDI source into the SDI capture card and the quad, and there was only 33 milliseconds of difference between the two in vMix. Interesting. I think we can be confident that the quad is operating correctly, but your TriCaster output seems to be having an issue. So I don't know. I mean, you probably have to contact NewTek and say, hey, these are my findings right now. Can you help me solve why this is taking so long? I mean, obviously the source and the encode from the source is going to be super fast. I don't know how long, though, the delay is on the output of TriCaster. And quite frankly, I doubt that they would publicize what those numbers are, just because it's kind of like secret sauce. It's kind of, it's like the 12 spices of KFC or whatever it's called, where they're not going to tell you exactly how the sausage is made. So I don't know if you'll actually find out that information, but you may have stumbled across the actual answer. I don't know. And I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. So there you go. Now this also looks like I have no body, but it's because my screen is right there, and so it blocks most of my person. Alrighty, I probably should get on with it, right? So really appreciate you guys hanging out with me today. It's always a blast to spend time during the week with folks in the industry, and I love the fact that some of you guys make extra effort to be here every week. It is noticed for sure. If you haven't already, be sure you jump over to birddogjohn.tv and subscribe to that channel. That would help me out big time, mostly because it shows my bosses that this thing is a thing, and it's a real deal, and we're actually making some progress. And so I'm doing some stuff on there. If you subscribe, that's great. If you hit the notification thing, then your phone will let you know when I go live, and so you don't have to rely on Facebook or your schedule or an alarm or something. You get a notification right on your phone if that's something that you'd like. But I'd love to have you come back. Love to have you spend more time with us. And by all means, bring your NDI questions, bring your NDI friends, your triumphs, your failures. We'll talk about it all. And as you have even heard earlier today, we don't just talk about cameras. We don't just talk about NDI. We talk about networking. We talk about network tools. We talk about microphones. We talk about network interface cards. I keep saying NIC card, and I'm trying to break it. I'm trying so hard, just for you guys. And we talk about everything. So we like to continue that conversation. You are 100% most welcome at a place like this, where you can bring your questions, ask. Feel free to be a part of our community. Watch me eat all sorts of things at this point. The past few have been delicious. So we need to probably do a spicy something soon. And actually, I keep saying this and then I never do. I'll try and order some more spicy Korean ramen, which is the Buldak brand that I learned to love so well. And as I saw on the entry video, I was chopping up fresh jalapenos, and there was another type of pepper I had in there, that big green one. It was called the Big Boss Man. That's what it was. It's like somebody ran out of names, and so they were like, what do we call this big pepper? And they said Big Boss Man. The Big Boss Man was not very spicy, but you should see my freezer at home. It's full of frozen jalapenos, like fresh jalapenos. So, and we're coming up on growing season. My wife's already got the pepper plants ready, so I'm gonna have more. It's all good. I'm happy to. That's a good problem to have, right? We have had, just following up here with Laura, had delay from a capture card. We fixed that with BIOS updates. Oh, what about the TriCaster? Do they have BIOS updates? That's interesting. Huh, that's an interesting idea. I have not ever looked at that. Maybe I should. I'll call my friend and ask. He'll know what's best. So, thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate you guys coming along for the ride. It's always a pleasure to spend a few hours with you. It is a beautiful day over here in Auburn Hills. If you look outside, beautiful sunny weather. It's going to get up to like 80 degrees today. Love it. I can't wait. So it's going to be super nice. AC is running. We're keeping our team nice and cool, and it should be a very productive and a good day. So looking forward to it. Don't forget to join us Tuesday, Thursdays from 11 to 12, at least 12 o'clock, right here at birddogjohn.tv. We are on for at least 60 minutes twice a week, and that is honestly a way for you to interact directly with us, with support, with somebody that can help answer some questions that you might have. You can talk about products, talk about whatever you want. That's what I'm here for. So happy to do that as a freebie. It's the price of admission. This is my joke, because there is no price. So there you go. Can't wait to be with you guys again. We'll check in with you soon. Take care of yourselves out there. Be sure you take care of each other. And we'll see you next week on Thursday. Take care, guys. Bye.
You didn't say the magic word.